Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to apply shadows in Wix Studio. First of all, I will show you how to apply the shadows with the built-in shadow options, and then I will show you how to apply shadows with the CSS. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a element. I'm just going to add an image element. And then to add the shadow using the built-in settings, we click and open our panel. With our image selected, we can go down to the design and then click on the shadow and turn on apply shadow. This here kind of sets the direction of where the light source is. So if we have it set over here, we can see the shadow is coming out more at this angle here. This sets the distance of the shadow from the item. So if we put this really high, we can see the shadow is making it seem like it's further away, and then we can bring it right back in as well. The size this affects, let's put the shadow right up so we can see that better. This affects the actual size of the shadow, and this affects the blur. You can have it really blurry, or you could have it not blurry at all and have an exact block. And then you can also set the color. You could also change the opacity so it's more of a solid color instead of a lighter color. Generally speaking, with most shadows you would have the opacity turned down. You can add shadows in this way for most items on Wix Studio. Now I'm going to delete this image. Next I'm going to show you how to apply advanced CSS to create shadows on Wix Studio. I'm going to actually use an image for this again, so we'll add the image and then we're going to click on these curly braces and click start coding. Then we're going to click on add global CSS and I'm going to delete this. I actually like to use a shadow generator. It's one of the things that makes custom CSS shadow so powerful on Wix Studio. I like to use this shadow generator. I will leave a link down below in the description. As you can see here, you can set the background color, so you can change that to anything that you like. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment so we have a tint on our shadow. You can also turn off the tint so it will just be a black shadow if you want to. This positions the light source, as you can see. I'm going to leave that around there. You can also adjust this, which affects the spread. This affects the blur radius, or the blur by the looks of it. And you got the resolution, which to be honest I can't really tell too well what that is doing. And then you've got the CSS code at the bottom. These are what are called CSS variables. What we can do is we can copy all of that, paste that into your CSS file. And as you can see on here, we've got low elevation, medium and high. So for each one of these, this is the different one. So if we want to use this shadow, we need to use this CSS variable. And to do that, we would select our image. So we've got a global class we can use, or we can use our own custom one. I'm just going to use the global one, and then we can delete that there, and then we would just write box shadow, and then we can do dash dash and select our shadow. Oh, we don't want the shadow color. Try that again, dash dash. Let's go with the shadow elevation high. And as you can see now, we got that really big shadow there. You can adjust the color by changing the shadow color here. You would need to keep it as a HLS value because of how it's being used in these custom properties. But if we change that one to low, we can see the shadow will change. Can't really see much from low. Let's do mid. Medium. Be an E, not an I. There we go. Which I tend to think this is probably the better shadow to go with. There is one kind of caveat when using box shadow with images on Wix. If we set a corner radius on our image in the panel, let's just give it, I don't know, 70 would do. As you can see, the box shadow is actually included around the image because the image is in a container where the corners, when you set the corners on the panel, sets it to the actual image. When we're applying the shadow, it's setting it on the container that the image is in. So you would need to also add your border radius in the CSS to be the same. Oops, pixels. For it to actually cut that part of the shadow off. Another little thing to note is that with box shadow, you can't use it with vector graphics very well. If we were to apply this shadow to the vector image, you note how we get the box around it and the white background to the vector. But the way around this is you can either just use the built-in shadow so that I'm gonna distance that so you can see it a bit clearer, and it will fit to the shape of that SVU unit. And that's one of the biggest difference between shadows on Wix Studio. A lot of the time it uses the box shadow, but on vectors it's using something called drop shadow instead. To add a custom drop shadow with the vector selected, I'm going to add this vector image class. We can then delete these, then we type filter, and we want the drop shadow. Then we set the distance on the x-axis, the distance on the y-axis, and then I'm going to set the blur, and then we need to set our color. We can use the color that we've got up here if we want to, or you can use hex values and RGBA, any of the color ones that you can do. I'm just going to post this one in here for the minute. Need another bracket there. As you see, we've got our drop shadow, but it fits to the shape. If we turn this down a little bit more, we won't have quite as much blur. If we have that as 0, it'll just be a solid block. I hope you have found this video useful. If you've got any questions, please ask them in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.